Santé Jean-Yves Duclos et des docteurs New et la docteure Tam. Let's be honest, this isn't how anyone wanted to be starting 2022. I can understand that people are frustrated, people are tired, people had a holiday season that was less festive for most people across the country than they would have liked. We're closing in on 2 years of this pandemic, and there have been moments of more intensity and moments of less, but I think everyone was hoping that we would be into a much better place right now, and yet here we find ourselves again in many parts of the country in lockdowns, with public health rules, with school back virtually. And I can tell you as a parent, I'm very aware that the kids are back in school virtually. And I can understand that people are frustrated. But I also know that we know how to get through this. Your orders of government have been working together for months and years now to deliver the things that are necessary on the federal side. We've delivered vaccines, and Canadians have been there to take them up in record levels. We've delivered rapid tests, treatments. We've been there with income supports, and we're going to continue to be there. From the beginning, we said we'd have your backs, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Because this is about keeping you safe, keeping our health workers safe, and getting back as quickly as possible to the things we love. 2 years into this pandemic, however, one thing has changed from those first early months. Canadians themselves, you know what we need to do. You know how to keep your loved ones safe, and more importantly, you know how to keep our health systems from getting overwhelmed. People have been stepping up, there for their neighbors, there to do the right thing, there to get vaccinated, there to support our frontline workers, whether they be in our health system or in our grocery stores or wherever. Canadians have shown their mettle and the way we are there for each other, and we're going to have to keep it up. We're going to have to keep doing that for a while longer. Kids back in school virtually in many parts of the country. Parents figuring out how to balance things. Everywhere, people getting vaccinated. People making sure we're doing the right things. That's going to continue to be the story for the coming months. But we know, because we've seen it before, when waves have hit, like this Omicron wave has hit, we have to hunker down. We have to pull together, and it gets better in a few months. We're looking at a better spring as long as we all keep doing our part. That's why I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been doing their part, everyone who's been stepping up, and everyone who will continue to step up. There's no magic bullet on this. None of us want to be here right now. But we know what to do to get through it, and I know Canadians will continue to do it. Even though we're tired, even though we're frustrated, we can get through this together. On vaccines and boosters, we now have enough vaccines in the country for everyone. I got my booster yesterday. It's about all of us doing our part to make sure that through this Omicron wave, we do not overwhelm our healthcare system. Think of the healthcare workers who've been there for months and months and months, stepping up in extraordinarily difficult situations. People have been there for them. Puis c'est jamais trop tard de se faire vacciner. Si vous êtes là pour votre booster, merci. Si vous êtes en train de faire vacciner vos enfants, c'est la bonne chose à faire. Et si vous approchez du moment où vous allez choisir de faire votre première vaccination, merci. C'est jamais trop tard pour faire la bonne chose. Je peux vous assurer que les travailleurs de la santé qui vont être là pour vous donner votre premier vaccin vont être très contents de pouvoir vous donner ce premier vaccin, même aujourd'hui, même dans les semaines à venir. Nous savons ce que nous devons faire pour passer à travers. We need to do our part. And if you haven't yet gotten vaccinated for whatever reasons, know that there is a vaccine for you waiting at your local pharmacy, at your local health center. We have all the vaccines we need for all Canadians, so please get yourself vaccinated. That's how we keep our health systems from getting overwhelmed. That's how we minimize the impact of COVID on our society, on our economy, on our neighbors, and on our frontline workers. We're also continuing to send tests, rapid tests, to provinces and territories. We delivered a record number of tests in December. We're going to quadruple that in January. On parle de 120 millions de tests rapides déjà livrés et on va continuer. On est là aussi en termes de gouvernement fédéral pour aider les provinces, les territoires qui sont dans le plus de difficultés. On finalise le déploiement de 200 membres des Forces armées canadiennes dans les cliniques des vaccinations du Québec. Et on va continuer d'être là avec les tests de dépistage, avec les vaccinations, avec les traitements nécessaires. En même temps, comme le gouvernement fédéral a fait depuis le début, on va être là pour soutenir les travailleurs et les entreprises. On continue d'avoir des mesures en place pour vous appuyer si vous en avez besoin. Et je souligne particulièrement la subvention salariale, qui est là pour vous permettre de garder un lien à votre emploi, même si le travail n'est pas là, pour vous faire payer, pour pouvoir continuer à mettre l'épicerie dans votre frigo, mais de savoir que vous gardez ce lien avec le travail. Alors, s'il vous plaît, cette subvention salariale est utilisée par les entreprises durement frappées avec de l'aide au loyer, avec des aides directes aux gens qui sont affectés. Nous sommes là pour vous, pour aider en plus les provinces à pouvoir prendre les bonnes décisions. Les autorités de santé publique vont savoir que oui, s'ils ont besoin d'amener des mesures additionnelles de santé publique, on va être là pour les appuyer. On est là pour appuyer les citoyens. C'est comme ça qu'on passe à travers la crise de santé, mais c'est aussi comme ça qu'on passe à travers la crise économique en minimisant l'impact long terme sur notre économie. Workers, small businesses, we will always have your back. We have income supports and we have a wage subsidy that is continuing for hard-hit businesses to allow you to keep your link to your job and put food on the table in situations of lockdown or public health restrictions. We know that's the best way of getting through the health challenge, but it's also the best way of getting through the economic challenge, so we can bounce back stronger once we get through this particular wave. So thank you to everyone doing their part. We're going to hang in there. We're going to keep getting through this, and there will be better days ahead. On a beaucoup de travail devant nous cette année pour bâtir un Canada plus fort. This week, we signed historic agreements for compensation and reform for First Nations, Child and Family Services, and Jordan's Principle. For far too long, Indigenous kids at risk were being removed from their communities, putting in situations where they lose their language, they lose their culture, they face mistreatment. We need to recognize our responsibility collectively for that, but we also have to put an end to it going forward. And that's what this historic agreement was all about. And I want to thank all the partners who've been at the table throughout these many last weeks, working extremely hard, putting kids at the center of everything we do, making sure we're compensating kids for harms in the past, making sure we're putting an end to it into the future. From the various communities and Indigenous leaders, thank you. To Senator Murray Sinclair, who's been an extraordinary advocate for children throughout, to everyone involved, the ministers who worked hard on it, thank you. But there's still a lot of work to come. We've signed these agreements. Now we have to make the changes. We have to get the compensation out, but we also have to make sure we're transforming child and family services for First Nations kids across this country so that we break the cycle that continues to harm children in this country. This is also a difficult time of year as we remember the victims of Flight PS 752 and other air disasters, families who continue to grieve, who celebrated yet another holiday season with empty spaces around the table. Know that we stand with you. Know that we continue to fight for you. Know that we will continue to be there to support you as you grieve, as you face the long, slow process of healing, and as we continue to demand accountability and justice. Je suis maintenant très content de passer la parole à notre ministre de la Santé, Jean-Yves Duclos. Jean-Yves.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre, et bonjour à toutes et à tous. Et permettez-moi tout d'abord de profiter de l'occasion pour souhaiter une très bonne et heureuse année à toutes celles et tous ceux qui sont à l'écoute avec nous aujourd'hui. Malheureusement, avec le variant Omicron qui se propage rapidement partout au pays, ce n'est pas le nouvel an que nous envisagions il y a à peine quelques semaines. Malgré tout, nous avons de nombreuses raisons de rester positifs et optimistes par rapport à l'avenir. We have been through a lot in the past 2 years, and I know that Canadians are feeling the effects of the stress and uncertainty this pandemic has brought into our lives. But let's be clear, January 2022 is not March 2020. We have made significant progress, and we are continuing to add resources and tools to help protect and support Canadians. Because of our early planning and successful work to procure vaccines, we are now able to weather the Omicron variant in a much stronger position. Last year, we rolled out the largest vaccination program in our country's history. Almost 80% of all Canadians of all ages were fully vaccinated in 2021. Booster shots are rolling out across the country, with more than 7 million boosters administered across the country to date. Finally, we're also protecting our children. More than 40% of kids aged 5 to 11 have already received 1 dose of vaccine. This month alone, we expect to have enough supply in our country for all eligible children to receive both doses. We would be in a very different position right now if we did not have such a high vaccination rate and the vaccine supply we need to support further vaccination efforts throughout the new year. Notre responsabilité collective maintenant, c'est simple, c'est de vacciner les populations non vaccinées, de continuer d'accélérer l'administration des doses de rappel et de vacciner nos enfants. À ce sujet, comme le Premier ministre l'a dit un peu plus tôt, notre gouvernement a annoncé lundi l'approbation de la demande d'aide du gouvernement du Québec. Depuis hier, les forces armées canadiennes sont en train de finaliser le déploiement de 200 membres de leur personnel pour aider avec la logistique liée à la vaccination. Mon collègue, le ministre Blair, et nos représentants poursuivront l'évaluation de la situation et adapteront l'appui au gouvernement du Québec au fur et à mesure de l'évolution de la situation. Over the past few weeks, all levels of government have had to make tough choices to protect public health and to protect our healthcare system. The Canadian government has an important role to play in that regard. Last month, we implemented new measures at the border to slow the arrival of the Omicron variant, including advising Canadians to avoid non-essential travel. Our government is also temporarily expanding the eligibility of several support programs to help those impacted by new public health restrictions driven by the Omicron surge. Les tests rapides s'avèrent aussi un outil majeur pour nous aider comme citoyens à réduire la propagation de la COVID-19. Avant décembre 2021, notre gouvernement avait distribué 85 millions de tests rapides aux provinces et aux territoires. En décembre 2021, d'autres livraisons de tests rapides au nombre de 35 millions ont été faites aux provinces et aux territoires. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir de confirmer que 140 millions de tests rapides de plus seront distribués dans les provinces et territoires au cours du mois de janvier. À la demande de nos partenaires provinciaux et territoriaux, ces stocks seront distribués en proportion de la population de chaque province et de chaque territoire. Ces 140 millions de tests équivalent à 3 fois les 35 millions de tests livrés en décembre dernier. Rapid tests are proving to be an important tool to help us Canadians reduce the spread of Omicron. Before December 2021, our government had delivered 85 million of such tests to provinces and territories. In December 2021 only, an additional 35 million tests were delivered to provinces and territories. Today, I'm pleased to confirm that an additional 140 million rapid tests will be delivered to provinces and territories in the month of January. As requested by our colleagues from provinces and territories, these tests will be allocated to them on a per capita basis. These 150 million new rapid tests for January represent 3 times the December delivery of 35 million tests. Deliveries are already well underway, and we will keep you posted as often as possible. Across Canada, all levels of government are doing their best to help slow the spread of this virus and support Canadians. These are challenging times, but they will not last forever. We have the tools we need to get through this new wave of the pandemic. Let's continue to exercise caution. Continuons de protéger notre santé et celle des autres en suivant les directives des responsables de la santé publique. Continuons de prendre soin les uns des autres et de garder espoir. C'est ainsi que nous allons pouvoir passer ensemble à travers ces nouveaux défis de la nouvelle année. Je dirais qu'il n'y a pas de pays mieux préparé que le Canada pour passer à travers cette nouvelle vague de la pandémie. Ensemble. Merci. Et je me tourne maintenant avec plaisir vers la ministre des Finances et la vice-première ministre, Madame Chrystia Freeland.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Yves, et bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. Our government understands that to win the fight against COVID, we need to have the right tools. We need vaccines, we need rapid tests, we need therapeutics. And we need to have the measures in place to support people and businesses economically to get through restrictions and lockdowns. We have these tools. Our government spent the fall putting these tools in place, making these investments to prepare for this difficult winter. In December, before the holidays, we released an economic and fiscal update that included significant investments, including the purchase of 180 million rapid tests and a $2 billion investment in therapeutics. These were to support our collective effort to finish the fight against COVID and to handle the Omicron surge. Et avant cela, en octobre, nous avions annoncé le lancement du programme d'aide ciblée pour les Canadiens et les entreprises canadiennes, incluant une provision pour un renouvellement des subventions salariales et pour le loyer en cas de confinement. Ces programmes sont entrés en vigueur en décembre avec l'adoption du projet de loi C2. De plus, avec la propagation du variant Omicron et les nouvelles restrictions mises en place dans les provinces à travers le pays, nous avons décidé d'élargir temporairement la définition de confinement pour veiller à ce qu'aucun travailleur et aucune entreprise ne tombe entre les mains du filet. Nous avons créé ces mesures pour permettre aux autorités de santé publique de prendre les décisions, parfois difficiles, qui s'imposent en sachant que le gouvernement fédéral sera là pour soutenir les travailleurs, les PME et les autres employeurs dans leur communauté. Et notre soutien depuis le début a été imbranlable. En effet, le gouvernement fédéral a fourni $8 sur chaque tranche de $10 dépensés pour lutter contre la COVID-19 au Canada et pour soutenir les Canadiens et Canadiennes. In recent weeks, as we all know all too well, most parts of the country have announced new lockdowns or other public health restrictions. Many of these restrictions have an impact on people's jobs and their businesses. I'd like today to reassure Canadians by reminding them that the federal government has made sure that economic support is available to you if you need it. Last week, applications opened for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. So if you are a worker in a part of the country that is locked down or subject to 50% capacity restrictions, and if you have lost 50% or more of your income as a direct result of those restrictions, you can be eligible to receive $300 a week. And you can now apply online directly through the Canada Revenue Agency. We also know that businesses, especially small businesses, need support. That's why we have in place the local lockdown program, which will provide wage and rent subsidy support of up to 75% to employers who've had to reduce the capacity of their main business by 50% or more. And let me remind businesses that we have temporarily lowered the revenue decline threshold from 40% to 25%. There is also further rent support of an additional 25% that's available for businesses subject to a full lockdown. From the start of this global pandemic, we've understood that having a job is central to the well-being of Canadians. These wage and rent support measures are about protecting people's jobs and allowing people to stay connected to their employers. That keeps people strong, it keeps families strong, and it keeps businesses strong. And that's what we need to keep our economy strong. Expanded eligibility for both the wage support and the rent support runs from December 19th through to February 12th. De l'aide est aussi disponible aux entreprises qui subissent d'autres pertes liées à la pandémie par l'entremise de programmes de relance pour le tourisme et l'accueil et de programmes de relance pour les entreprises les plus durement touchées. Je tiens à rappeler que cette aide financée par les contribuables est offerte aux entreprises pour leur permettre de soutenir leurs travailleurs et passer à travers la pandémie. Toute entreprise publique, prestataire de la subvention salariale qui choisit de verser à ses cadres supérieurs une rémunération bonifiée par rapport à l'année 2019 devra rembourser l'aide reçue. Par ailleurs, les entreprises qui versent des dividendes tout en recevant la subvention salariale deviendront inadmissibles au programme. Notre gouvernement prend au sérieux la tâche de gérer prudemment les finances publiques. Nous nous attendons à ce que les entreprises canadiennes admissibles fassent preuve de respect à l'égard de ces programmes d'aide et qu'ils demandent cette aide seulement s'ils en ont besoin. The best way to end this pandemic and the best economic policy is strong public health policy. As the Prime Minister and Jean-Yves have just reminded us, the best thing all of us can do is to get vaccinated and to get our boosters. I also want to say to all Canadians that in these really difficult times, as a country, we have shown true grit and true resilience. Last week, The Economist ranked Canada's economic performance during the pandemic as second in the G7. We have more than recovered all of the jobs lost in the depths of the pandemic, well ahead of expectations. And Canada has the second lowest mortality rate from COVID in the G7. By supporting each other, by working together, we have kept our economy strong and we have saved lives. I know that this is a frightening time. It's a frustrating time. It's a truly difficult time. So I would like to reassure Canadians, we have the tools to get through this. We know how to work together as a country, and we are resilient. We have shown that to ourselves, to each other, and to the world over the past year. For nearly 2 years now, we have been fighting in an unprecedented time. We have been facing an unprecedented challenge together. I know none of us wanted to be facing this Omicron surge, but we have the tools to get through it. And I have every confidence in us that we'll get through it together.
Merci. Et maintenant, je pense que je passe la parole à nos collègues, les journalistes, pour nous poser les questions.
Hi, everyone. So I'm told that the Prime Minister is with us for 20 minutes. We'll start with reporters in the room. We've worked out how it's going to go. I'll start my stopwatch in 1 second. And reporters, you will need to follow up on each other. There will be no follow-ups. Starting with Tom Perry of the CBC, please.
Hi, Prime Minister, Minister Duclos. I'm just wondering on this. First of all, Minister Duclos, you said 140 million tests, and then 150 million. Which is it? Do you anticipate you're going to be buying tests at this pace moving forward? And we've seen people in places like Ontario and Quebec scrambling for tests. And I'm wondering, is this going to ease that, or does it still come down to distribution by the provinces?
It's 140 million in January. I didn't make one mistake, which an economist has no excuse for making. Is I said that 140 is 3 times 35. 140 is 4 times 35. And 140 million is also, on average, 1 rapid test per week per person in Canada in January.
Yeah, I think we all understand that rapid testing is going to be part of the path through it. We've seen over the past year certain jurisdictions like Nova Scotia make extensive use of rapid testing. The federal government has continued to procure rapid testings over the past year to distribute to provinces. Provinces made determinations around how to distribute them. Obviously, it's another tool in the toolbox. Certainly with the speed at which Omicron is propagating through our communities and through our country, it makes sense to have rapid testing. There are reflections of how to integrate rapid testing results into our overall understanding of the way the cases are evolving across this country. But as you point out, Tom, the distribution of those rapid tests is primarily done by the provinces. Our job is to procure as many as we possibly can and get them to the provinces free of charge. They will make determinations around delivering them to people. We have certain stockpiles for vulnerable populations and specific usage, but the vast majority of rapid tests will be sent to provinces and territories for them to distribute in the best way to serve their citizens.
Prime Minister?
Nous savons que des tests de dépistage rapide font partie de la solution, partie des outils que nous avons pour s'attaquer à cette vague Omicron. Il y a des provinces qui, depuis plus qu'un an, utilisent le dépistage rapide de façon beaucoup plus présente. Je pense à la Nouvelle-Écosse, par exemple. Mais certainement, de s'assurer, en tant que gouvernement fédéral, qu'il y a assez de tests de dépistage rapide qui se rendent aux provinces et territoires. C'est notre responsabilité. Comme le ministre de la Santé a dit, nous sommes en train d'en procurer des millions, des dizaines, des centaines de millions même. Mais ce sera aux provinces et aux territoires de développer la meilleure façon de distribuer ça aux citoyens.
Christian Noël.
Bonjour, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Bonjour, bonne année à vous deux. En français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît. On a des provinces qui limitent l'accessibilité aux tests PCR. Donc, il y a des gens qui sont peut-être positifs à la COVID qui ne se feront pas détecter. Il y a des gens qui se font des tests antigènes à la maison, qui vont peut-être avoir la COVID, qui ne vont pas se déclarer. Est-ce que ça vous inquiète et à quel point ça vous inquiète d'avoir une vague invisible de la COVID?
Et je vais répondre brièvement et je vais inviter, si vous le permettez, Madame la Dr Tam à fournir plus de précisions d'un point de vue scientifique. Parce que, comme elle le dira probablement, il y a d'autres outils dont les provinces et territoires peuvent se servir pour combler le vide d'information qu'effectivement on observe au Canada en fonction de la rareté, non seulement des équipements, mais surtout du personnel pour administrer les tests PCR à travers le pays. Donc, c'est un enjeu important. On sait que les provinces et territoires font le maximum d'efforts qu'elles peuvent faire, étant donné que les procédures autour de ces tests, c'est un des nombreux enjeux auxquels les provinces et territoires font face. Il faut accélérer la vaccination, les doses de rappel, entre autres parce qu'on sait que ces doses de rappel sont nécessaires pour ramener la protection vaccinale à un niveau suffisant et satisfaisant. Il y a aussi évidemment une crise dans beaucoup d'endroits au Canada en matière de capacité des soins, des hôpitaux d'accepter et de soigner les nombreuses personnes qui ont besoin de soins avec le variant Omicron. Mais sur la question de quelles informations additionnelles on pourrait aller chercher, du moins que les provinces et territoires pourraient aller chercher, je vais me tourner rapidement vers la Dr Tam.
Thank you for the question. I would say that in Canada, we will not miss an entry of this variant or its spread in the community. There's enough testing to detect that. Even in the more remote areas, there's the use of point of care molecular testing on top of rapid tests. They don't necessarily send their test to a laboratory. There are already systems in place. We are doing more daily tests than any other period during this pandemic. And I think just in the week preceding January the 1st, there were over 1 million laboratory tests being done. So if you're tracking the trajectory of this virus, we will be able to look at the trends. The provinces are not testing every case, but there's so many tests being done that I think we will not miss waves going through a community. And the clinical presentation and other factors will tell local medical officers whether they have the virus or not. And on top of that, we're doing other testing, such as in wastewater as well.
Évidemment, on a beaucoup de différents outils qu'on est en train d'utiliser. On va utiliser tous ces différents outils pour s'assurer d'avoir une idée le plus exacte possible de la réalité d'Omicron à travers le pays. Juste parce qu'on utilise différents outils, ça ne veut pas dire qu'il y a une vague invisible. Au contraire, on a une très bonne idée de l'étendue d'Omicron. L'important, par contre, c'est de pouvoir s'assurer d'être là pour les gens qui en ont besoin, pour les travailleurs de la santé, d'assurer qu'il n'y a pas de surcharge dans nos hôpitaux. Et c'est avec ces ressources-là que nous allons maximiser nos efforts.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. Hi, Prime Minister. I heard you reference kids going back to school virtually and acknowledge frustration that people are feeling. I'm wondering what you say to parents who are frustrated that they were repeatedly told closing schools would only be a last resort and who feel that your government hasn't invested enough in healthcare capacity, which could have potentially averted these kinds of closures.
We have, since the beginning of this pandemic, invested around $63 billion in healthcare supports on top of the usual healthcare transfers that we send to the provinces. So we have been there, and we will continue to be there to make the investments from the federal level to help people get through this. But I can understand the frustration that parents are feeling. You went through the same puzzlement over the weekend about when our kids were starting, who were starting virtually. Turns out they're all virtual. All these challenges that parents are trying to adjust to and adapt to at the same time as we're dealing with public health restrictions is not easy. My role as Prime Minister and as the federal government is to be there to provide the vaccines, the rapid tests, secure the borders, be there on treatments, be there with income supports for businesses, for workers, and to do everything we can to make sure that the provinces have the tools to make the right decisions for them, for their citizens. We will continue to be there every step of the way to support orders of government and indeed all Canadians in the way we move forward.
Glenn McGregor, CTV News. Prime Minister, there's still a significant population in Canada that's refusing to get vaccinated despite all the things you've done, travel restrictions, vaccine mandates, you coming out here at press conferences imploring them to get their shots. In France, they're bringing in new measures with what President Macron calls his intent to piss them off. Wondering what you are going to do that you haven't tried already to reach these people who are continuing to clog up the ICUs.
Well, I think, first of all, we do have to recognize that the vast majority of Canadians have stepped up, have been there to get themselves vaccinated, to protect their loved ones, to protect frontline health workers. And that is significant. We're amongst the top countries in the world in terms of citizens stepping forward to do the right thing. So it's not just about governments and health workers frustrated that there are Canadians who still continue to choose to not get vaccinated. It's fellow Canadians as well. When people are seeing cancer treatments and elective surgeries put off because beds are filled with people who chose not to get vaccinated, they're frustrated. When people see that we're in lockdowns or serious public health restrictions right now because the risk posed to all of us by unvaccinated people, people get angry. And we have put forward many, many different measures to encourage, to reassure, to incentivize, to educate, to cajole, to remind people that it's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to go and get your first dose of vaccine. I can tell you that that frontline health worker who's giving you your first dose of the vaccine, even now in January 2022, will be immensely pleased to be able to give you that first dose of vaccine even today, because they'd much rather be giving you an injection of vaccine than intubating you in an ICU. We need to continue to do the right thing the way all Canadians, or the vast majority of Canadians are, keep each other safe, and make sure our country gets back to the things we love as quickly as possible.
Hi, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor with the Canadian Press. During the campaign, you extolled Sunwing as a leader in the pandemic. It's benefited from government subsidies, as have other airlines. But in light of the video that surfaced that showed the company allowed one of its planes to be chartered for a party where there was no holds bar and no COVID rules were followed, is your government going to be asking for taxpayer money back from Sunwing? And what's going to happen to those passengers when they return to Canada?
I can assure you that Transport Canada is taking the situation extremely seriously. There will be a full investigation into exactly what went on in this situation. I think, like all Canadians who've seen those videos, I'm extremely frustrated. We know how hard people have worked to keep themselves safe, to limit their family gatherings at Christmas time, to wear masks, to get vaccinated, to do all the right things. And it's a slap in the face to see people putting themselves, putting their fellow citizens, putting airline workers at risk by being completely irresponsible. I can assure you that this is a situation that Transport Canada takes extremely seriously, and we are definitely following up on that. Je peux vous assurer que Transport Canada prend très au sérieux la situation avec ce vol nolisé. C'est inacceptable que des gens soient en train de mettre à risque pas juste les autres passagers, pas juste les travailleurs des lignes aériennes, mais leurs concitoyens au retour. En plus, quand les gens sont en train de faire des sacrifices, les gens ont réduit leurs contacts pendant le temps des fêtes, n'ont pas vu des êtres chers. La vaste majorité des gens à travers ce pays savent qu'il faut faire des sacrifices pour se protéger les uns les autres. Et quand il y a une gang de sans-dessin qui décide de partir comme des ostragos en vacances, c'est extrêmement frustrant, c'est démoralisant. Et je peux vous dire que Transport Canada et le gouvernement du Canada prennent ça très au sérieux. On va faire des suivis sur comment ça s'est passé.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News. Being that the problem seems to be not the amount of vaccines or the number of rapid tests that the federal government has made available, but maybe the province's ability to distribute them efficiently and people not being able to get access, and also that it's the federal government, not the provinces, that are responsible for First Nations people's health. What, if any, special measures is the government taking to ensure that First Nations communities, especially in remote areas, can get access to these tests and also the vaccines?
From the beginning of this pandemic, as a federal government, we have paid particular attention to the vulnerabilities faced by Indigenous people and Indigenous communities across this country. We've seen from pandemics past, including H1N1, just how vulnerable Indigenous communities can be to pandemics. And that's why from March 2020 onwards, we have leaned in specifically and directly on ensuring supports for Indigenous peoples and Indigenous communities across this country. That goes from early vaccinations through Moderna to remote communities in the north back in the beginning of 2021, to specific measures around testing and rapid tests, to extra supports for frontline workers. We will continue to be there with a very, very careful eye to make sure that there are adequate supplies to Indigenous communities, recognizing the vulnerabilities that come from more fragile and less robust infrastructure around health, around so many other things. But I'll turn to Minister Duclos if he wants to add anything.
Well, I can, but the Prime Minister summarized that really well, and it's obviously in collaboration, in my case, with Minister Aidu and Minister Miller, who are working with public safety to make sure that, as the Prime Minister just said, the Indigenous peoples in Canada, for all sorts of reasons that you mentioned quickly, are appropriately supported. given the circumstances in which they often find themselves. So we were, as the Prime Minister said, quite successful in the first waves of the crisis in making sure that they would be vaccinated and provided with all sorts of other supports, and we'll continue to do that.
I think we have time for 2 solo questions on the phone. Operator, first reporter, please.
Thank you, merci. La première question de Mylène Crête, La Presse. La parole est à vous.
Bonjour. J'aimerais savoir concernant les tests rapides, est-ce que, étant donné la grande quantité qui seront disponibles en janvier, est-ce que vous pensez que les provinces qui ne le font pas devraient permettre la vente libre en pharmacie?
Deux choses rapidement là-dessus. Effectivement, les livraisons sont considérables. Je mentionnais il y a quelques instants le 140 millions de doses, pas de doses, mais de tests rapides en janvier. Bien, 140 millions, c'est déjà 4 fois la livraison de 35 millions en décembre. Et 35 millions en décembre, c'était 5 fois plus que la moyenne des tests qui avaient été demandés par les provinces au cours des mois antérieurs. Donc, à peu près 20 fois plus en janvier que ce que traditionnellement les provinces et territoires avaient demandé au cours de 2021. La deuxième chose, c'est que ces tests sont fournis gratuitement par le gouvernement canadien aux provinces et aux territoires. Et comme le premier ministre le disait il y a un instant, on a une entière confiance que les provinces et les territoires vont utiliser ces tests de manière la plus efficace et la plus équitable possible. Efficace, évidemment, parce que ces ressources vont continuer d'être rares. Les tests rapides sur la scène mondiale sont en très grande demande. Le Canada se débrouille très bien pour aller chercher autant de tests aussi rapidement, mais les tests, ce sont des tests en quantité évidemment limitée, et il faut que ces tests soient fournis aux gens qui en ont le plus besoin. On sait que depuis quelques semaines, c'est ce qui se passe. La plupart des provinces et des territoires livrent ces tests non seulement rapidement, mais aussi en fonction des besoins des gens qu'ils ont la chance de servir.
And the last reporter, preferably for the Prime Minister before he goes, please.
Thank you, merci. The next question is from Ryan Tumilty from the National Post. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, you're announcing today this 140 million rapid tests going to the provinces. Are you concerned about how the provinces are using them? Because it has been sort of scattershot across the country. Different provinces have used them in a variety of different ways. You know, in Ontario, we've seen them handed out at liquor stores and given to students, and other provinces have used them in different ways. Are you concerned that they maybe aren't being used in the best way possible to prevent wider spread of the virus?
Thank you for your question, Ryan. And it's one that there have been many iterations of over the past couple of years. When we talk about how one province or another is responding to one aspect or another of the pandemic, we have to recognize that the different regions in this country are facing very different situations. And we are a federation in which the delivery of health care is a responsibility of the provinces, and they will make determinations around how to best serve their citizens in the right way, given the expertise that they have, given the recommendations of their local public health officers. Our responsibility as a federal government is to make sure that there are enough rapid tests, enough vaccines, enough treatments, enough income supports, enough border controls, all the things the federal government has done and will continue to do, we are doing. The provinces will make determinations, and hopefully they will learn from each other and share best practices in terms of what is working well in one place or another. But we expect the provinces and territories to be there to distribute these rapid tests that we are procuring by the hundreds of millions to citizens to help us get through this wave of Omicron as best as we possibly can.
I want to thank the Prime Minister of Canada for joining us today. We're going to continue after he leaves with ministers and the doctors for 5 minutes. That's 15 minutes. Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Good to see you. Folks,